We're joined by Mr. Ivan Us, an advisor at the Ukrainian National Center from Kiev. Good evening to you, Mr. Us, and welcome to Qnews. Let me here start by asking you, how important is a direct meeting between Zelensky and Putin for advancing peace negotiations?
Good evening to you, Mona, and good evening to all audience. You know, Mona, actually, when Ukraine said about necessity of this meeting, first of all, it's a reflection on the pressure from the United States of America, namely from Donald Trump. Because in Ukraine, we understand that Russia didn't change its main goals in the war against Ukraine. It's the practical elimination of Ukrainian independence. They want to see capitulation of Ukraine, and they said that we can do that by the hard way or easy way, meaning that it could be military approach or it could be diplomacy, but the result should be the same. That's why this potential meeting, as for me, it's a reaction on idea from the United States of America that meeting should be. Ukraine understands that Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, he don't want to be in such meeting. And furthermore, you know, now we have the 23rd of August. At the end of this month, President Putin will be in China, meeting with Xi Jinping. I think that till that day, there will be no decision from Russia. They want to coordinate it with China. That's why I don't think the next week, till the moment of meeting between President Putin and the leader of China, Xi Jinping, will not happen. Till that moment, we are hardly hear a response from Russia. But returning to your question, I don't think that actually this meeting can change something. So the only reason is just to demonstrate to US that Russia don't want to see this meeting. Thank you, Mona.
Right. How do Ukrainian officials view the possibility of direct Putin-Zelensky negotiations without the US mediation?
So, of course, we understand that it hardly will be a productive meeting. Furthermore, as I said, we understand that we have our ideas. Russia has its own idea, but Russia wants to dictate what they need. And if this meeting from Ukrainian perspective could be a dialogue of two persons, for Russia it should not be a dialogue, it should be dictate what Ukraine should do. And in that situation, we see that Russia, that at first President Putin said to Donald Trump that he ready for direct meeting or meeting when Donald Trump can be present. But now, from the statement of the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sergei Lavrov, we understand that Russia actually don't need this meeting just because if they don't see a plan of capitulation of Ukraine, they don't understand why this meeting should be. Plus, let's take into account the fact that from Russian perspective, Vladimir Zelensky is a legal president. Russia constantly repeat on their television that he should not be the president of Ukraine. That's why there is no reason to meet with him. And when US and Donald Trump said that you should do that, Russia probably is thinking how to eliminate sanctions versus Russia from the United States, decided to say yes. But then probably they received some promises from China in support of the economy. They immediately say no, because the main level of influence on Russia is the economy. You know that starting from this month, for the first time in Russia history, the Russian reserves, the liquid part of their reserves, is lower than the deficit of Russian budget. It's always a big problem for economy when your reserves is not covering your deficit. Nevertheless, it's happened. That's why Russia now more flexible for talks, but not so flexible for having meeting direct with President Zelensky, and to make frozen of the war that sometimes we hear from some Ukrainian partners should be done in the next several weeks. Thank you, Mona.
But then, Mr. Rus, let me ask you clearly, what are the real reasons preventing a Putin-Zelensky summit from taking place?
First of all, the fact that Russia, as President Putin said several times, he ready to talk with only equal to him, with Xi Jinping, with Donald Trump, and that's all. Probably Narendra Modi, but he didn't mention India. He constantly told about China and US. That's why, from Russia perspective, the meeting between Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky is a meeting of non-equal persons. Putin wants to emphasize his significance. That's why he tried to say, no, it will be not me personally, it will be my representatives. They with President Zelensky or with representatives of Ukraine. Second moment, the fact that Russia like to mention about illegitimacy of Vladimir Zelensky. Russia said that, oh, he should be re-elected. There was no elections. That's why he's a legal one, and we don't want to meet with a legal person. That's the second reason. But third probably reason, and the main that Russia don't need talks. Russia don't need dialogue. Russia want to dictate what they want, and for them, no matter who doesn't matter who can sign capitulation of Ukraine. If President Zelensky is not ready to sign the capitulation, they're not ready for this meeting because they need a result that they can explain to their public. Because 3.5 war, and tomorrow will be 3.5 full-scale war, and more than 10 years of actual wars since 2014. For Russia, it's hard to explain to their citizens why some of the parts of the Russia, especially annexed one, like Donetsk, a city with 1 million population when it was Ukraine. Now they have approximately 300,000 people, even less. The city lives without even water supply. And of course, they explain to their public that it's because we have a war. But if there will be no war and there will be no water supply, it's hard to them to explain why those cities have no water. Probably because they spend money not for water supply of cities, but on them having war. But Russia don't like to make such explanation. It's not in their style. So that's why we hardly to see in the next weeks this meeting. But the only thing that can influence on probability of this meeting, it's even widening of the Russian economic problems. And if September, at least start of the September, gives to us results of their, let's call it so, deep problems in the economy, that's the only probably reason that could influence, but in exchange of elimination of sanctions. If there will be no clear obligation to eliminate sanctions, I don't think that Putin will be ready for such meetings. Thank you, Mona.
If I may ask you here, is Ukraine seeking a kind of guarantee, certain guarantees for that meeting to come? And would, as you said respectively here, fresh sanctions that were set by the US president, that he might impose sanctions, he might not do anything at all, would that impact Russia's willingness to negotiate?
You know, Mona, since the 20th of January, since the moment when Donald Trump, for the second time, became president of the United States after his inauguration, there is no new sanctions against Russia. So we have several packages from the European Union, but no new package and no new sanctions from the United States of America. That's why in Ukraine, we talk a lot whether Donald Trump can actually impose those sanctions. Nevertheless, even the fact that he is not imposing new sanctions, but the European Union, and that is more important for Russia, actually do the sanction, it's make big pressure on Russia because their economy is not ready. That's why, ironically, that Russia always like to emphasize that they're a strong country with a strong economy. But now, as I said, they have 4 trillion Russian rubles as a reserves of their cabinet of ministers and 4.9 trillion the deficit of budget. Plus, every week we receive news that more and more companies decrease salaries for their workers. Officially, they said that they decrease quantity of working days from 5 to 4. But the real reason that they want to decrease the salaries of their workers, and people see that they're receiving less money. And official explanation we have, or that's why we need to spend more money on this war. But if there will be no war and there will be no increase in salaries, so there will be no reason. It will be very hard to explain the fact that people start to receive less money. That's why now, of course, Russia tried to find the best resolution of it, but sanction really works. That is a very important moment. And if the United States of America in one moment says that we actually start to impose new sanctions, I think that it will be a very big level of influence on Russia to really go to this negotiation because economy of Russia in a very bad situation. Thank you, Mona.
Well, What do you have, or what's your comment on the US and the NATO allies' role they play in breaking the current deadlock?
Man, actually now there are a lot of talks about guarantees of security for Ukraine. But all that is theoretical talks because when we have a war going on, to said about those guarantees, the war should be over, and then we should talk about guarantees because this war could last for a long period, and it means that talks about guarantees hardly be implemented into life. And as for me, this look of the situation, the fact that Russia not ready to stop this war. Furthermore, problem it will be for Russia to start the big problem for Russia if they start this war because they paid large money for their soldiers who are in war against Ukraine, and if those people, in case of stop of the war, return to their homes, they will receive their 10 or even 15 fold less money than they're receiving now. And these people with the arms at their hands and the experience of using of these arms, and it means a revolutionary situation. Russia don't need revolution because bad economy plus people with a weapon that know how to use it, it's a good reason to them to really do something in Russia like Evgeny Prigozhin tried to do in the year 2023 because that time it was small but attempt of coup d'etat in Russia. And everyone sees the fact that people support this idea and Russia afraid of that. That's why I think that Russia, due to that fear, not ready for talk, and that's why we have the locked question because West need from Russia guarantee of stopping war. Russia not ready for that because they understand that after that they received increased probability of revolution in their country. Thank you, Manu.
Right. Russia said that Ukraine is not interested in long-term peace. What's your comment on that?
Manu, of course, Russia search comments for how to accuse Ukraine, but Russia started war in 2014. Then it was something like peace, but after that, Russia started full-scale war in 2022. Russia could not say that they don't need peace because in that situation they could be under sanction of US. That's why, with a will not to receive sanctions from US, Russia accused Ukraine of lack of will for those negotiations and long-term peace. But Ukraine don't need just peace. Ukraine needs justice. Russia committed enormous quantity of crimes. Russia annexed a large part of Ukrainian territory. Yes, for last 1,000 days, Russia annexed 0.7% of Ukrainian territory, but nevertheless, they make those annexation. And for Ukraine, of course, it's not easy to say that, okay, let's forget about everything. Ukraine will be ready to real talks when we understand that Russia ready to return our land to us, and probably compensations that Russia should pay that could be under discussion. But Russia, of course, don't plan to do that, and that's why it's hard to find the soil for that talks because long-term peace requires feeling that it's a just peace, and where is no lack of justice, it means that it's a pause till next war because either Ukraine will think what to do because we felt ourselves not in the bad situation after unjust peace. So Russia can say that, oh, we are not destroying Ukrainian independence. Ukraine still exists. Russia constantly repeat that existence of Ukraine not in their interest. That's why they also will be thinking about future wars. And unfortunately, we have existential conflict where either Ukraine disappear or current Russian government will be substituted by the other ones who can say that no, we don't have imperial ambitions like Vladimir Putin have. That's I think that imperial ambitions of Putin, that's a big problem for achieving peace, but Russia could not actually recognize that fact. That's why they're accusing Ukraine because it's easier to them in dialogue with Donald Trump. Thank you, Mana.
But Mr. Roos, would you want to tell me what risks the whole world carry if peace talks continue to stall? And we're speaking about different parties, definitely Ukraine in the first place, Russia, and the whole world. What risks are we speaking about if talks continue to stall?
So actually, the main risk for the world it's a global food security. Ukraine is the leader, even in time of full-scale war. Ukraine is the leader in the global export of sunflower oil. Plus, Ukraine a big player in the global market of wheat, corn, and probably some other cereals that where Ukraine playing some role, like Russia. Russia is so big player. Russia is the biggest wheat exporter in this world. That's why if there will be no success in talks, if the war go on, it means that the whole world will receive less food products from those territory because people need to eat something all over the world, and that's why, of course, it's a threat from those talks. That's why so many countries asked Ukraine and Russia find peace. But as I said, we need just peace, not a peace without justice. That's why we will see what will be with those processes. Now we are waiting for President Putin and the leader of China, Xi Jinping, meeting.
Yes.
After
But
that,
however,
will be more
Mr. Roos, that remains to be seen, because he did not speak about the risks the world is facing in this ongoing war. That was
Yes.
Mr. Ivanus, advisor at the Ukraine National Center. We thank you so much for your insights here.